Hello, everybody. I'd like to call to order the January 10th meeting of the Conservation Commission. Starting off tonight with some continued business and enforcement order. Project located at 92 Townsend Ave. This has been on our agenda for quite a while. Is anybody here from this project?
Is that them?
92 Townsend Ave.
Yeah, it's
Hi, guys.
hi.
Name and address for the record before you get going.
Yeah, this is Nimesh Patel, and the address is Vedant Construction, Nimesh, Nimesh Patel, Patel.
And JP, the arborist, the contractor who's doing the cleanup.
Can you share a little bit of information about what's going on over there?
We had a violation that, I wanted to purchase the property. We ended up taking out some,
Bruce and trees from the front.
Yep, so
And,
we didn't know we need to, pretty much ask, coming over here, and explain everything what we're doing. So they end up, giving us this, so we stopped whatever we're doing. And they just said, clean up whatever you took out, just clean out. And then, once everything's clean out, they were gonna send somebody to go look, once everything was clean, and just take out the violation. And then
From this property.
Yeah, and then we will continue what's our game plan, so you
To
guys,
the next, yeah.
the next step.
Okay. Have you started to generate any kind of replacement plan at this time?
No,
Not yet, to be honest with you. Just 'cause there's snow and just,
Can you give me a little bit more detail about the plants and trees that were removed?
so, in the beginning, I was cleaning everything, just the dead stuff pretty much, because, all the big trees, everything is all the way in the back. So I started maybe like, I'm gonna say maybe like 10 feet.
10 feet, yeah, from
And
the water.
Literally just the brush and some of the dead wood. But no, we didn't end up cutting any big trees or any, in all the way inside the wetland and all that stuff. They pretty much was on time before we go further, cut anything else. So that's how we end up just literally stopping whatever we were cutting, and just you guys came and saw everything. Just say, listen, you know what? Just clean out whatever you guys took out, and just step by step, and then give you guys a game plan.
What's the goal for this property? Are you just cleaning up the site? Do you intend on building?
No, right now just we need to clean it up, that's it. That's our intent.
Just waiting on one photo to load.
Yeah, we already sent it the photo.
Yep.
So you cut down a tree, if I remember correctly, right? And it was already, you didn't cut down a tree, it was already down is what it was, right? Okay.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, we were just waiting for them to take,
And-
it's off-site, that was it.
Okay.
So all the brush and debris that is off-site now, you've taken?
That's the only one, yeah.
There's definitely a lot of invasive species here. The vines climbing up up the trees. Do you intend on treating those?
So the game planning was going to be like later on. Obviously, we didn't know about, this special, procedure pretty much.
Sure.
Like I'm an arborist, I just go literally chop trees down and, get it down with it. But in
At
this
least
occasion.
we can enter in the premises.
Yeah.
That's why we just little bit cut on the front
Yeah.
to get the entry in the premises to measure or to see ourselves, because there's a lot of trees and bruise inside. So
So pretty much, so we want the property to look a little, decent and a little more, pretty much taken care of. At least his property to taken care and look, look good. But that was the game plan. But since we need to do a little more study about the types of plants and stuff like that, or conservation, obviously we need to do our homework and then have a game plan for you guys and see what's going on next.
next
You
year.
come back, yeah.
So I think the city went out, took a look, no problems. Once it was all cleaned up, I'm pretty sure I saw that email. It doesn't seem to be necessary just doing kind of roadside cleanup here, that we do you know, we require any replacement at this time with it being dead. Just leave that for whenever you come before us next time.
So we're looking to ratify
I think it's
this
already
enforcement? We already,
Yeah.
rescinding it.
Yes.
okay.
Oh, nice.
I'll make a motion to rescind this enforcement order.
Second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
So you're all set for now, guys?
Yep.
We'll be here when you're ready.
Yeah,
Okay.
if
Thank
have
you
any
very
other
much.
questions. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick break. All right, next up, we have a notice of intent. Project location is at 59 Martin Street, DEP number 206-0824. Anybody for this project? 59 Martin Street. This is a notice of intent filed by Tusac-Socom.
Yeah, I've been here before, so.
Yes, welcome back.
Okay, thanks. Yes, my name is Ernst, and I'm with 54 Martin Street for Mr. Tulsack. I remember the last time we talked about it was a problem with the table, which is I've had that corrected. So what I did so far is that we were at point 67 to 68. We ended up with a stage fill of 0.63. Cumulative fill was like 63 again. The cut we have is 4.30, and what we had was about 367 cubic yard. And on the second stage, which is every foot increment, I think that was the biggest problem that we have. I didn't have the increment on there. It's 68, 69, we are 2.04. Cumulative, it's about 2.07. Stage cut is about 0.44. And we added about 2.07. On the next one, we did 0.23, 2.990. At 4.74, we added about 1.84. So we give a little more than what we were supposed to, because we know the storage is supposed to be higher than what we take out.
So I still disagree with the way that you've presented this data. The requirement of this bit of legislation is that the cut and the fill are in the same elevation. You've provided more cut lower, but you don't have the cut in the higher elevations.
Well, because there is no higher elevation. The highest elevation we have is about, it's 6819. We have one elevation which is 6819 and 6818. And the only place we could take it, because in front of that there is that bit of concrete sidewalk, we can't do anything there. But the BFE, there is nothing we can do about it because it's already at 691. The only place we could take it is at 68.
So in this board's past history,
Right.
a site that doesn't meet the requirements of the legislation is ineligible for construction. This is, I think we've seen this before. If there's nowhere to be cut in that elevation, then this project is ineligible, as far as I'm concerned.
And I mean, it's only about like 0.8. We are off. I mean, it's 69.1. I mean, we have like 6.8. It's a foot one, right? I understand your point. It's just that it's very small area of disturbance. It's not that big of a disturbance.
So there are lots of people who would love to put their houses on stilts, which have very small columnar, I don't know if I can say that word. The circumference of a
you-
column,
right.
The volume of a column. And they would be able to skirt through legislation if they followed your guidelines. We would end up with houses next to the, in the flood zone, next to wetlands, all over the city on stilts that have very minimal impact, but we can't allow every house that doesn't meet legislation to be constructed.
What I'm trying to understand is we have no elevation at 69. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how we could go any further because that BFE is not at, we can't find any elevation around 69.1. I mean, if we were able to do that, that'd be great. And I think we have that, we talked about that before. And we cannot bring any fill in to get to that elevation. It's a normal elevation. Even if I were to put it on still, it'd still be the same problem.
It would.
It's just about a less cut, I mean, less add on the fill. I don't see how that we can get to that elevation at all. There is no places in the plan that I have that elevation.
I mean, to the board, the only argument that I could make against this is that there is already a house here. This is already a resident of Lowell. This is not somebody new looking to make their home more comfortable. Anybody have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when some lots just aren't buildable or having to be able to be added to, even though there is a house on this. So I have trouble, it's a slippery slope where we let one person do it and then other people can try and say that, that was a precedent. So I have a problem with that. I have trouble approving this. Kind of on the same lines as you, Bradley.
Are there any other
yeah.
thoughts?
Yes,
Hi,
I'm
hi,
online.
Louisa.
Hello.
Forgot you're here.
Even though he's giving us figures for compensation, I still fail to see where the cut is coming from. You still got a solid wall with a smart vent in it. And, I don't see where he's taking out material exactly. He's got a slab, which would prevent anything from being absorbed that should run through a foundation, even if it were open. We've had situations in this very same neighborhood where the DEP, if we approved it, has denied it. So it's not like our approving it will automatically let them proceed, because it seems fairly obvious that there's no compensation on this particular lot. I suggested at one of the earlier hearings that we held on this project that perhaps the homeowner should look into going up and using the same foundation as they presently have for the house that's there, rather than trying to expand the footprint of that house. And I just don't see that the figures are there to allow us to approve this, even if it's a small amount. Like you say, a small amount here, small amount there, and all of a sudden we've got a flooding problem. This neighborhood already has a flooding problem. So, you know, it's just not a plan that works as far as I could see. I don't see, you know, I would hate to think that we're going to start giving preference to people just because they're residents or just because they own the house and they're not developers. I mean, everyone who has a property deserves the same treatment. So, uh, unless it can be explained to me better where this compensation is coming from, I just don't see it.
Yeah, there's the large majority of the cut is located between the 67 and 68 elevations, but in the 68 through 69 and 69 through 70 elevations, it does not make up for the cut, the fill that is added in those elevations. He's using a cumulative total over the entire project, but it doesn't satisfy each foot per foot elevation.
And if you were to try to redo that chart, we usually require foot by foot, and I believe he's done it in cubic yards, which is not very useful in a tight site like this.
I think the elevation range is in foot by foot. That's usually what I understood as that requirement. I have no problem with the table the way it's presented. It's just not satisfactory. The project, it doesn't meet the guidelines.
I mean, like I said, the reason I understand that, I've seen it, and I remember the last time we talked about it. It's going to be very hard to meet that BFE at the elevation it is.
Impossible, I would say.
It is impossible because the elevation is at 68 and you're looking at BFE at 69. There's no way I can get that. The only thing that I've shown, I think in the previous plot plan, was that we will be taking it on the Roseman Street by the ramp there. That's the only place that we have a 68 elevation. The other 68, which is higher, which is 68.19, and we have another at the corner of the house is about, you have 68.38, which is right at the corner where the sidewalk is. That's the closest to the elevation that we could get. It's just that we didn't want to disturb that's already there, which is, he has a driveway. We try to avoid that and try to see if we can get it next to the ramp in the back of the house, which is already at 68. Even if we were about to go at 68.38, we'll still be off. It is what it is on the plan. I understand that. We should have met the BFE, but we can't bring soil on site and try to take them off in order to get it.
We've seen that in this board as well.
No, I mean, well, by studying it, you see it. And we talked about that before. Yeah. And that's the reason why I'm here, to see if we can get a variance on it.
I don't think the argument's changed from our side. It doesn't sound like.
Yeah. And still, even if we were to do it, and it'd still be the same thing. We still have the same problem on elevation.
We have
we closed the public hearing on this?
probably not.
I don't think so.
No.
I suppose that you have the opportunity to withdraw ahead of our any motion that we may make, but otherwise,
Okay.
a motion to close the public hearing would be first.
I'll make a motion to, actually, do we want to, is the public here? Does anybody from the public want to speak on this project? Does anybody from the public want to speak on this project? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any further motions?
I'd move to deny this project as presented, since it doesn't meet the guidelines that are necessary.
If I may,
Yeah.
it would be helpful if the commission could spell out what criteria are not met for the purpose of drafting a defensible decision.
Sure. Louisa?
Well, the foot-by-foot compensation doesn't provide enough compensation for the amount of fill that's proposed.
Specifically in the 68 through 69 and 69 through 70 elevation ranges?
Yes. I don't know if
Yes.
there's anything else that anybody wants to add on to the reasoning.
I think that's really covers what we've been talking about this whole time.
I mean, may I say something? Compensation exceed the amount that we would have required to.
It doesn't work like that.
No, I understand that. I'm saying compensation because we just said something, it just passed through my mind because compensation definitely exceed that. I understand it has to be foot by foot. And when I get to 70, 68, 70, it's not meeting it. And that's why we try to mitigate between how much compensation we would have given to that site at that point, at elevation.
Yeah, I mean, you could, if we were doing it your way, we could just dig a hole anywhere and build whatever we wanted.
I'm here to because the last time I came here was about the storage. So I bring another table. I can understand what you're saying.
Looks like the only addition he'd be allowed to do would be up.
Well, you'd have to start above the flood zone.
Yeah.
And you have to build between the earth and the top of the flood zone.
Yeah.
So there's no way to compensate for it because there's nothing there. It's a flat site.
About 2 inches off, I think, 2 or 3 inches off. I mean, it's such a minor project. I never thought that would have been so much of a problem. But that's
I mean, I do agree with Louisa. If we don't deny this, the DEP is going to.
right.
And you can appeal to them anyway.
So a motion's been made.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
All right.
So this project's been denied. You're welcome to revise the plan another way. We would certainly be willing to look at, raising the house on its existing footprint. But it looks like any kind of expansion of this footprint is not going to pass.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
All right, next up, new business. This is a project location at 205 Pratt Ave, DEP file number 206-0826. And this NOI is to construct a 5-story multifamily building with 40 units within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetland and a 100-year floodplain. I would like to start by noting some comments from the city's transportation engineer, which calls into question the identification of Black Brook. I'm not sure if you received this comment, Matt, but on TEC's application regarding the work that we're talking about later on tonight for roadway improvements, it was identified as a perennial stream with a riverfront area. From what we saw, you had BVW on Black Brook.
No, we know that we're on a perennial stream and bordering land subject to flooding, bordering vegetative wetland, and perennial stream with a bank. Yep.
I think, if I may,
Yes.
that, so the perennial stream in other communities, the buffer zone would be 200 feet for riverfront area.
Okay.
But in Lowell, because we are a like highly developed urban community, the buffer zone is reduced to 25 feet, but then locally, we have a buffer zone of 100 feet for everything. So I believe that my read of the situation is that TEC flagged it thinking that there's a 200-foot riverfront area for that stream, but there's actually, it's 100 feet for every resource area in the city of Lowell, so, which Matt is aware of, so.
Good.
I think they were flagging that because they are obviously looking at these plans, given that they're doing a project right next door, but Matt is aware that the buffer zone is 100 feet for all resource areas
So
in
it's
Lowell,
basically a normal vegetated wetland is how it's almost.
Yeah, excuse me, Perry, sorry to interrupt you, but I'll walk through all that tonight. I know that Mass DEP had made a similar comment on their technical comments when they were issuing the DEP file number. I corresponded with Tyler Ferrick yesterday and this morning to get clarification on his comment that were,
Was it regarding the riverfront?
yes.
Okay.
And I sent them the excerpt from the Wetlands Protection Act that identifies a 20-foot riverfront
20
area
yeah.
in cities, one of them being Lowell, Holyoke, and other cities that have a lot of industrialized areas very close to these rivers, and they identified it as a 25. He responded back in an email that said that I concur with your assessment on that, and he was going to update the comments
Okay, great.
to reflect that. So just to
Thank you.
Provide
Yeah,
some
just wanted to get that
additional
one out of the way
information on
before
that.
we got going because it's mostly technical anyway, and
yeah.
just a little confusion that got tossed in our way at the last second. So
Oh well, I'm not confused, but
yeah.
whether they're confused is something different. But I'll walk through every aspect of the performance standards and everything
do.
this evening. But I'll let John Cox start
right.
the proceedings.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Attorney John Cox, 375 Gorham Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. Represent Alex and Stella Papadopoulos. Alex is here today. The owners of 205 Pratt Avenue. They've owned that property since 1992. We're filing a notice of intent this evening to build a 5-story, a 40-unit apartment building on the property. It is, we'll have on the first floor, the bottom floor will be parking. The next 4 floors will be apartments. Clearly, filling a need of the city. Clearly, the city needs housing. One of the main, I think, challenges in the city is good quality housing for people in the city. This gives 40 brand-new units. It's in it's properly zoned, and I'll go over a little bit of the history of it right now, if I could. Over the last year or so, we've had many meetings with DPD staff pertaining to this project. You'll note in your file, I'm sure, a memo from DPD dated November 27th. Comment 3, very supportive of creating much-needed housing in an appropriate location. So we've had many meetings with DPD and tried to format, taking their considerations and their comments and concerns. We met with, or I met with the Condo Association in August. Mr. Dave McCabe is here this evening. He lives in the condo across Pratt Avenue from this project. We met them with Nancy Judge from the Highlands Association. Had a very good meeting with them. As I said, the property is properly zoned. On August the 8th, we went to the City Council, Lowell City Council, requesting them to abandon a portion of Pratt Avenue, which would allow, would make it easier for this project. They approved it unanimously. We, on September the 11th, we went to the ZBA requesting really 3 variances for the project, approved unanimously. On December the 4th, we met with the planning board requesting a special permit and a site plan review, which they passed unanimously. So there's been a lot of eyes on this, I guess, over the last 6 or so months. and it's a project that I think clearly the city supports. The interesting thing as well is there's going to be new traffic lights at the corner of Westford and Stedman. I didn't know this until Nancy Judge informed me that the Highlands Neighborhood Association has been working on that for some time. In conversation with the city, the money's been appropriated. Work is ongoing. The city has hired, it's called TEC, the design engineers to do the work. We've had conversation with them. They requested if we would give some both temporary and permanent easements for the work they're going to be doing. With Mr. Papadopoulos has certainly agreed to that. The other thing is there's a single-family home on 969 Westford Street, which Mr. Papadopoulos owns. As part of this project, that house will be demolished. And we think that's important. Certainly the city, I think, is in support of that. When we talked to the traffic engineer for the city, Elizabeth Altman, and she asked what was going to happen with that driveway in the single-family home. We said it was going to be demolished, and she thought that would be ideal for what they were doing. The fire department had some concerns, some issues, which we dealt with, and there's a memo dated November the 3rd from the fire department saying all their concerns have been answered. They don't have any concerns with the project anymore. And clearly, there are many benefits to a project like this, and I'll let Matt talk about the engineering aspects of this. I know Matt has talked to DEP as early as today, I believe, but 40 units of brand-new housing in the city needs it, and it's zoned properly. Clearly, this is we expect this to be an investment of north of $10 million on this piece of property. So clearly, the city would be reaping a lot of tax revenue from that. With that, that's a little history of where we're at. The plans kind of speak for themselves, I think, in many ways. And Matt can explain the engineering aspects of it. And we hope that you'll agree that it's a great project for the city and we can continue to move forward with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Cox. For the record, my name is Matt Hammer with Lamplex Engineering and Surveying, 10 George Street, Lowell, Mass. So I'm going to walk you through the property to get you oriented. This is a locus. Stedman Street comes down to Westford Street. And right now there's a single-family home that hasn't been occupied in a little while, so it may look dilapidated at this point. And Pratt Ave is somewhat across from Stedman Street. Here's Stedman Street here. Here's Westford Street. There's a lot going on this plan. I'm on the existing conditions plan, which is sheet 2 of your plan set. The property boundary is here, comes along Pratt Ave, comes to here and returns, and then goes back in this direction at a zigzag fashion and comes back to the property corner on Westford Street. Here we have the Black Brook that was noted earlier. And with that Black Brook, we have a very defined bank which demarcates the edge of bank as well as the bordering vegetative wetland edge. And that has been delineated through wetland flagging 1B, which starts at the culvert and extends around the property to the outside of the property over to 19B, and that was delineated by Norse Environmental Services out of Tingsboro, Mass. In fact, actually, I'm mistaken about that. They just moved their office to Drake, Mass. This project also has another resource area. So that's the Black Brook That's a perennial stream. As we were discussing earlier, in Lowell, perennial streams have a 25-foot riparian setback to it in terms of the jurisdiction. There was a DEP comment that was provided by Tyler Ferrick, Mr. Tyler Ferrick with Mass DEP, about 200-foot performance standards. And I had notified him, sent him the excerpt from, I don't know if you want to hear all this, but there's a provision in the Wetlands Protection Act that lists Lowell as having a 25-foot setback to a perennial stream. Additionally to that area along the Black Brook, there is a bordering land subject to flooding resource area, and that's demarcated by the flood insurance maps. The FEMA maps are also called, in terms of the elevation of that floodplain. That floodplain is shown on and established to be 104.8 per that mapping. That elevation is shown as a line that says FEMA, and that is, we're able to, when we do the topography throughout the property, we're able to interpolate by CAD where that demarcation is, and that's identified by this line here. And I'm going to show you that we're not going to do any work at all that's going to be within that bordering land subject to flooding. So we're not going to have to talk about cutting and filling and doing meeting that performance standard. But that is a resource area that's on the property, even though it just cuts through the edge of the property here and then just cuts through more down at the culvert that runs underneath Westford Street. And then we have a 100-foot buffer to the bordering vegetative wetland, as well as the edge of the bank. And that's what is also under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, not necessarily underneath the jurisdiction of the Mass DEP, but it is there in terms of that buffer. We've also have done soil testing where the drainage systems are going to be located, which I'll go through later, that identify where seasonal high groundwater is. That was done by a certified soil scientist and witnessed by the City of Lowell's stormwater team, who we've discussed this project with as well. There's an existing building here. There's a driveway here that comes here through Pratt Ave. There's an entire parking area that runs around the building, which also comes down into this area here. The single-family dwelling, there's a separate lot for the single-family dwelling. And then this entire area over here, which has chain link fences, railings, a fire pit. It's landscaped, it's maintained, and that area extends all down into here, as well as this area beyond the edge of pavement with the chain link fencing and some embankment to that is there as well. I can say the majority of this property has been filled, unfortunately. Through the test pit deep hole soil testing, you can tell what the activity was previously on the property, and that a good portion of it has been filled over time, which is common in Lowell. The other thing which is nice is we have a nice sandy soil, which is conducive for drainage. So that was a good aspect of the underlying soils underneath that fill. So we know that our drainage system is going to function well, bless you. There's a multitude of easements on this plan. There's utilities that are the City of Lowell's utilities that run through this easement here. There's a sewer line that goes through this area. I haven't chased it through the brook, but it goes underneath the brook. There's a sewer line. There's infrastructure within the brook, and that's shown here. We're not going to be affecting that in any way. I just wanted to just make note of that. There's also a sewer easement here that comes off of Westford Street that goes into this sewer here. And again, we have another sewer line that goes underneath the Black Brook as well. So we're not going to be affecting any of that in any way. And then additionally, there's a water line that has been abandoned that is here that we're not going to be utilizing in any way. And then there's another easement that's outside of the buffer that's over here, and there's another easement here, but all that is outside the 100-foot buffer. But that's generally what's going on with this plan. I can say that the majority of the parcel has been altered in some manner over time, from what we're seeing. There is vegetation that takes place along the brook itself. We're going to be leaving all that vegetation. So we're not going to be affecting the existing vegetation along Black Brook. Before I go to the next plan, which would be to show you the project, does anyone have any questions about the existing conditions plan at all? No? Okay. I'm going to add one other little thing here. Pratt Ave itself was a private roadway that went all the way to here. We've actually discontinued a portion of it. But with that, I can say that the entire Pratt Ave and the development is now going to be maintained by a private condominium association within the property. So it's going to be what I would think a great improvement from what's going on this property now, which is essentially all the runoff and everything is going into the buffer and towards the Black Brook unmitigated completely. And that's and I'm going to show you how that's all going to change through this development. This is a layout plan here, which has some improvements that we're going to be doing out in front of the building, where the existing parking area is out in the back. That's going to be repaved, regraded. There's going to be a proposed building here, which is going to be meet that 50-foot setback for a structure to be no closer than 50 feet. There's going to be an at-grade garage underneath the building. There's going to be 4 stories above that garage. There was a request when we met with Francesca with DPD that we do some porous pavement in this area here. So we provided that porous pavement as part of the plan to help mitigate this area, which was within that 50-foot buffer, which I'll go through on the next sheet. We have snow storage area around the parking area, snow storage area along the landscaped areas and around the parking area here. And there's a considerable amount of vegetation that's going to be added in the way of shade trees that are located by these symbols. And general landscape in front of the building. I can say that all of the development that we're proposing above and beyond what's existing there now is going to be fully meeting the performance standards of the stormwater regulations for mitigating all that water that's currently now not being mitigated. This is the grading plan here. The essentially the water's gonna be directed to a catch basin system here that'll go to a drain manhole here, go into a subsurface infiltration system, and then outlet here to an outlet point here. Again, that's outside of the bordering land subject to flooding for that drainage course. Within the garage itself, there's a requirement that if you have a garage that's not a single-family use, you have to provide a oil grease trap for any vehicles within a garage that's essentially non-resident single-family. So there's a catch basin here where the water in the garage will be flow towards this catch basin. It'll go to an oil water grease trap, then to the drainage manhole into the infiltration system to mitigate water that could collect on vehicles in the, when it snows, and passive rain that can get into a at-grade garage. Here, there's a catch basin here, a catch basin here, as well as another drain within the garage, which will flow to a grease trap here, which will go into a subsurface infiltration system, which is sizable system here. Here, there's a catch basin to a drain manhole, to a subsurface infiltration system here, and all this is connected to each other to outlet here. This part of the parking area is also connected hydraulically to this subsurface infiltration system. During construction, we've also provided some erosion and sedimentation control devices. One is a construction entrance here. This is a straw wattle system going around the toe of the slope of the development, the limit of work. And I forgot to mention, there's actually a small runoff forebay that we're doing here for any runoff that comes off of this portion of the existing pavement here, just as an additional measure that we were able to incorporate into the plan. But this is the erosion and sedimentation control. This project's going to be greater than 1 acre of overall disturbance. So this will require a what we call a NIPDES, stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is NIPDES is a National Pollution Discharge Elimination System process, where the construction of this project will have to obtain a general permit through the Environmental Protection Agency for constructing more than one or disturbing more than 1 acre of land. So that's going to be an additional measure on top of what we're showing for erosion and sedimentation control. They also have to comply with that stormwater pollution prevention plan that has to be on site for that overall development. This will also we'll need to go through the stormwater team as well within the city of Lowell for their approval on the system as well. The project will also be serviced with sewer, which will be going in this direction here, not towards this sewer line over here. And then water will be coming out to Pratt Ave and gas. There's also details I'm sorry, I have 2 sheet 5s in here. And there's details here for the subsurface infiltration systems for the 2 systems, as well as details for the other components, the oil grease separator for the floor drains. This is a colored rendering that gives us an idea of kind of the overall scope of what's considered green in the way of vegetation. And then the building, this is the existing building, this is the proposed building, and in gray is the proposed pavement area. And I forgot to mention that we do have a porous pavement component, which is conducive when you have sandy soils, which we've added as well as a recommendation. And this project will be, there's been a full stormwater report that's been submitted with this filing and the required DEP checklists for the stormwater controls. And as I said earlier, this site's gonna fully mitigate by way of all the drainage systems, all the water flow, and able to be increasing through that DEP checklist. The groundwater recharge volumes will be met for the requirement of 1 inch of runoff, as well as the water quality and the pre-post requirement of the checklist as well. And I feel as though this project is going to be even though it's a redevelopment and it is adding another building, but it's going to bring the entire project into stormwater compliance in terms of the improvement. And then additionally, with these systems, you need to have long-term maintenance, and that long-term maintenance has been provided in the stormwater report. And that stormwater maintenance is going to be a requirement for the development after it gets constructed to maintain those inspections of the catch basins and the oil grease traps and the drain manholes and the infiltration systems to ensure that they're regularly maintained on an annual basis so that this project is in compliance moving forward after it's constructed. And then the city of Lowell now has a requirement where as-built are required. So this project will come back before the commission after it's constructed with a full as-built to show that it was built in compliance with this plan. And that's another control that the city has put into place to ensure that these projects are being constructed as they're approved. And I can take any questions from the commission.
Thanks for the thorough review. Yeah, sure. While we're here.
So this is a view of the building looking at this, let's see. So this view here is looking at it in this direction here, perspective. This is looking at the front of the building here. Here's the garage at grade. This is looking at the building in this direction here. And that's the proposed building. I can put it to the commission.
Thank you. Going out there, it was surprising to see that you could fit this much building that close to the wetlands. You've squeezed our requirements to the inch. You know, there's certainly a lot on this site. It didn't feel that far away.
Yeah, and I not, sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Riley, but that's because a lot of the building is actually where that back pavement area is.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's might be why.
I only had one technical question. The DMHs 1 and 2, the deep sumps associated with SIS 1 and 2, have an overflow invert out higher than, or sorry, lower than the top of the units in those storm tech systems. To me, that would seem like unused subsurface space. Is that intentional?
Yeah, that could be for the overflow.
Yeah, so the
So the
overflow, the
system-
overflow is lower than the top of the units.
Yeah, so the system's meant to, fill up the system, and then if the system fills up completely, like on maybe a rain event that we had the other day, was that yesterday? Depending on where you were, if that system fills up, it can then get to the discharge point that's outletting to the wetland, so we always incorporate an overflow.
So, I might be drawing it wrong in my head, that because the overflow comes out of the units at the top of the unit anyway.
Yeah,
And then it goes into the DMH and then drops,
right,
and then goes back out the overflow, okay.
yeah.
so
At
it
that
doesn't
point,
actually matter. Okay,
at that point, the system's fully surging.
yeah,
If it, for some reason, fails, which we're not expecting it to at all, but if it was to fail,
sure.
then we have a control so it's not flooding the parking or you're running into an issue where the water has nowhere to go.
Do you have any concerns about groundwater in these systems? Where was the
No.
groundwater elevation?
We're required to have the system above seasonal high groundwater,
Yeah,
so we meet that requirement.
okay,
That's why we went out and did the deep hole testing to make that determination.
Okay.
And then the offset from groundwater drives the rest of the site design.
Is there a reason that these are pushed? It seems like the two big systems are about as low as, or far down on the site to the top of the page, and lower in elevation as possible.
Yeah.
Was this just to minimize piping, or was there another reason for that?
No, it's just, naturally the grading kind of dictates itself to where the analysis points are for where the flow currently is going now, and to try to balance the site so that the water is going to get to the Black Brook. So there's kind of an art to it, but if you come in the site and take that immediate right, it actually dips down. And then it comes back up towards the building. So we're fighting with those grades and that existing building in order to make all the drainage work. This was a little challenging to make this work, but we were able to accomplish that, I believe.
I'm sure you jammed a lot in here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
making sure we would meet that 50-foot setback. We know that that's a hard setback, so.
Yes, sir. I think that was a very thorough review. I mean, this site seems to be well designed. I don't really have any other questions. Anybody else got any comments?
No, yep, you squeeze it right in, 50 feet, so that would have been my concern. Biggest thought, looking at this beforehand at the Pratt Ave, is that you wouldn't be able to fit it, but you did. And so everything else looks good to me.
I appreciate the great explanations that you provided tonight. It was very clear.
I have a question about the rear of the new building. You said you weren't going to disturb anything back there. Is that going to be a fairly open space, or is that going to be wooded, or what?
Yes, so that area in the back is wooded right now. So where we have the erosion control, there will be no land clearing beyond that erosion control line, which will be the limit of work.
Okay. I was just wondering if, once the building's occupied, if that area would be tempting to, for instance, expand parking or something like that. Not
No.
officially, but maybe the tenants themselves would view it as a spot. And if that were the case, I would have suggested that maybe like a post and rail fence or something along the line between the property line and the building, along the edge there near the porous pavement, would have perhaps protected that area a little more in the back.
Yeah, we have no problem putting in a post and rail fence demarcation on that property line behind the building, if that's, if that's what's suggested.
I think that's a great idea. It would be great to have no snow storage signage as well in that area.
Sure.
I'm glad you're getting a light over there at that intersection.
Yes. Yeah, the light at Stedman Street in Westford is sorely needed, so I'm glad that's getting put in, so.
Yeah, and there's going to be a fair amount of improvements. So we provided easements to the city through prior submissions, and we had told TEC, who's the retained traffic engineer, that we would provide all those easements. There's temporary grading easements that we're providing and permanent easements. And there's going to be a fair amount of sidewalk improvement along that area as well. And a few crosswalks as well. There's going to be a crosswalk that's going to, I'm sure they're here, they're going to talk about that. So I don't need to go through all those improvements, but there is going to be a big improvement in that intersection.
Do you feel, I think I'm looking at the northeast corner of the new building that's closest to the FEMA line on the plan. Looks like you've got about 10 feet from that corner
Correct.
to the FEMA line. Do you feel that that's enough room to excavate for your foundations?
We do, yes.
So it's a little tight.
Yeah, it is, but we feel as though we're not going to be impacting that FEMA line. That bordering land subject to flooding, actually, so.
Thank you.
Matt's told me he only needs 5 feet.
That's right, they have shoring. So the contractor's going to have to ensure that they are not impacting that, but typically 3 feet's sufficient for a frost wall on the outside of it. And that's what this is going to be. It's not going to be a deep excavation. There'll just be, the excavation's only going to be 5.5 to 6 feet to the processed gravel for the footing.
Do you have a location for a transformer on the property?
Actually, we don't. That commonly comes up, that there may need to be a transformer put in for this project. There's an existing, we believe that transformer system, there's a transformer that's here. Right now, there's a cabinet here. We feel as though there's going to be an extension and possibly a cabinet here. Possibly over here, but it's not going to be over here, which would be the closest area. But if it does come in that the transformer is going to be within that 100-foot buffer and is different from the plan, we would have to run it by the commission and Department of Planning and Development to see if that's significant enough to have to come in and come back before the commission in order to address that location.
I only bring it up because just in my own experience, by the time you get the oil containment curb around those, typically can be a sizable footprint.
Somewhat
tricky to locate on the site.
It's
already pretty cramped tight.
I believe that would be located here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the commission? Anybody from the public wants to speak on this matter? All good? Okay. Matt?
I'd like to add one thing. A DP number has been issued for this filing.
Yeah, we had that in our agenda.
Okay, I just was making sure that you were aware of that.
206-0826.
Yeah.
Any motions?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone else?
What was the back, right? The fence, the signage for the snow storage?
Fence and signage?
Okay. I'll make a motion to issue a standard order of, a standard City of Lowell conditions with the conditions that there's a fence on the back line where the erosion control line is now, and then the snow storage will be labeled on site.
To clarify, snow storage would be labeled on this site plan or on the site itself?
On the site itself.
On the site
So yeah, a post and rail fence along the edge of the parking lot where it abuts the wetlands, and signage behind that post and rail fence labeling the area as no snow storage.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Sorry, one last clarifying question. How would you characterize the location of that post and rail fence? Just for the purpose of the,
It's going to be, my understanding, it's going to be here, but we're also going to extend it here, just so,
no snow storage?
well, the snow storage signs will have to be in here,
Okay, so the upper,
but we'll put the post and rail fence along here, just so folks don't
Okay.
want to meander towards the wetlands.
okay, property line to the rear of the new building.
Yeah, along Lariat Street, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, project's approved. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and I want to thank Francesca and everybody at DPD for all the help they gave us. This has been a long project, and they've really been very, very open and helpful all the way through. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Looking forward.
Did someone second it?
Louisa did.
Yes.
Oh, Louisa did? Okay, thank you.
All right, up next, a request for a certificate of compliance. Project location 105 Martin Street, DEP file number 206-0818, filed by Bill Renaud. Is anybody in attendance for this project? Hello.
Good evening. My name is Paul Campbell at Chess Engineering. We're at 126 John Street in Lowell, and I'm here representing Bill Renaud. And yeah, we're here to get a certificate of compliance for the project. We've submitted an as-built plan. The contractor has built the site in compliance with the approved plan. This was a project in a floodplain, and he was required to provide compensatory storage. So he provided the required compensatory storage at each elevation, which matched the design plans. So I'm here for any questions you might have about the construction.
I didn't have anything. It looked fine to me. I believe the city concurred.
Based on the
Did
pictures and
original-
everything, it looked good.
Excuse me. Did the original plan have the garage in the rear? Was there a change there?
No, there was no garage in the rear. There's a garage at the ground level of the building, but the behind the house is a deck and stairs. And yeah, the original design plan, the approved plan, had the deck and stairs. We actually included the supports for the deck in the compensatory storage calculations
Okay.
in the design.
Thank
Yep.
you.
No problem.
I would,
Anyone?
I would make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for this project.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up, a request for determination of applicability from the City of Lowell. Project location Westford Street and Stedman Street intersections. The City of Lowell is applying for approval for roadway improvements located within the 100-foot buffer zone of a protected wetland. We've been talking about this intersection already tonight, and what can you tell us about it?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Clark with TEC Engineering in Lawrence, Mass., 282 Merrimack Street. I'm a transportation engineer at TEC. We've been hired by the City of Lowell to design intersection improvements at Westford Street and Stedman Street. The project limits include approximately 425 feet along Westford Street and 250 feet along Stedman Street. The purpose of this project is to improve vehicular safety and operations, as well as pedestrian safety and accessibility throughout the intersection. The project includes the installation of a new traffic signal at this intersection, reconstruction of existing sidewalks, installation of ADA-compliant pedestrian curb ramps and crosswalks, new pavement striping, and a mill and overlay within the project limits. These improvements will be constructed within the existing roadway footprint, and no major geometric changes or widening is proposed. Black Brook is in proximity to the roadway improvements over here. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, a 25-foot riverfront area exists, and this project proposes approximately 3,200 square feet of work within that riverfront area. Under the City of Lowell ordinance, there's a 100-foot riverfront area, and the project proposes approximately 9,500 square feet of work within that 100-foot riverfront area. Most of that work is just reconstruction of existing sidewalks and just a mill and pave of the existing roadway. In addition to the riverfront area, a 100-foot buffer to inland bank associated with Black Brook exists. That buffer is the same as the 100-foot riverfront area. Same work involved. We also have on our plan the bordering land subject to flooding. That was put on there from the FEMA maps. And this project proposes approximately 3,300 square feet of work within that area. But that work is, again, just reconstructing sidewalks and milling and overlaying the road. So there's no impacts to the bordering land subject to flooding. Under this project, we'll be installing sediment control barriers and silt sacks in all the existing catch basins. We're not proposing to really change any of the existing drainage, just minor adjustments for the paving. In conclusion, this infrastructure project will greatly benefit the public and improve safety and operations at this intersection. We've been working closely with the City of Lowell and have received some comments to date, and we'll continue to work with them as we progress this design. Thank you.
You answered all the questions I had in your presentation.
Yeah, it's staying within the existing boundaries of what's already there, so I see no problems with it, so.
I think you've got enough notes in the file talking about stockpiling.
Yep.
So I won't add another one.
Yeah.
Anybody?
So I'll make a motion to grant this project a -3 designation.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where'd I go? There it is. We have another request for a certificate of compliance, 55 Gagnon Road. DEP file number 206-0817. Hello, good evening.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm Robert Kies.
Nice to
I
meet you,
own
Robert.
55 Gagnon Road.
I was hoping that you could walk us through what brings you to your request today.
Oh, I don't know. The project's done. The garage is built. I'm just good to go, I guess. Last step. The building inspector signed off, and it's all set as far as I know.
And you've removed any erosion control, the whole site's been stabilized.
Yeah, there's been no problem. There's been no runoff, even with all this excessive rain and stuff. No, it's been fine.
Yeah, if you made it through this one, then you're good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone have any comments? Questions?
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 55 Gagnon Road.
I'll second that.
Mayor seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good evening. All right, we've got a request for determination of applicability from Mass Electric, east of 1 Cayenne Street. The applicant is seeking approval to do approximately 15 soil borings on the site to determine the extent of contaminated soil. This work is within the 100-foot buffer zone of the Pawtucket Canal. Is there anyone here for this project?
Joe Higgins.
There he is.
virtual.
Hi, Joe.
How are you doing? I'm from Innovative Engineering Solutions. Jesse Edmonds from Mass Electric is trying. He's
Sorry, Joe. Sorry to interrupt. We have to turn up the volume here in the chamber. If you could just hold on one moment, I'm gonna have LTC turn the volume up.
Okay, let me know when you want me to talk again.
Okay.
That actually sounded better already.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Okay, Jesse Edmonds from Mass Electric is in the lobby waiting to get into this meeting. If somebody can let him in.
Outside?
Got it.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you.
Zoom
We
on.
just
Zoom meeting.
let him
He's in the Zoom.
enter. Thank you.
I thought the door was unlocked.
Well, the virtual door was locked.
Yeah, I always forget about Zoom. Getting there, guys.
We're the consultant for Mass Electric, and we've been doing work on Cayenne Street for many, many years. We are proposing to do some additional investigation work adjacent to the canal to determine the extent of PCBs in soil. It's been an ongoing investigation out here that as we get additional data, we're trying to wrap up what we're studying to get our hands around what the extent of contamination is out on Cayenne Street. So we're coming in front of you now. We received an access agreement with the MBTA who owns this property to conduct these borings. And now that we have that access agreement in place, we want to get your approval that a negative determination will be fine and we can proceed with doing the borings. And I can answer any questions you have on the work we're doing. And we'll go from there.
I guess my first question is about the current, status of that property and if there's anybody residing there.
It's vacant land. There are occasional homeless people there, but nobody is residing there. If you've been down Cayenne Street, it's a bunch of fenced off parcels. We put a lot of the fencing up at Cayenne Street, dead ends at 19 Cayenne Street, and then the railroad bridge right near the canal. But there's nobody living down there. We use one of the parcels to store some materials for the boom system we're maintaining in the canal. But otherwise, it's vacant. It's a place that not many people frequent.
I've been down there picking up quite a few times, so I'm familiar. Are there any plans to remediate if you do find contaminants?
Yes.
Do you have a timeline for that?
We got to get about 6 different property owners in the room to agree with us. We've been talking to the city of Lowell, who owns 2 of the parcels. the MBTA, DCR, proprietors of Locks and Canals, and RGB Realty, who owns the last parcel at the end. So there's a whole group of people we're trying to get agreement with. Once we get them to agree to a cleanup plan, then we need to present that to EPA and get their approval because it's PCBs.
And so you know that there are PCBs somewhere out there, you just don't know the exact extent?
This is the last piece we think we need to determine it, yes.
Okay.
We've done over 400 borings on Cayenne Street.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody?
Make up.
Excuse me.
Louisa?
How long is the boring hole open for? When is it opened and closed in a day?
Oh, yeah, we should be done with this investigation work within 3 days. So
I see.
15 borings, that's 5 a day. As soon as we finish the boring, we will backfill it with bentonite and grout. And the cuttings that we take out of the hole, what we don't keep for samples, we're gonna drum it. And those drums will then be moved to 15 Cayenne Street, which is property owned by National Grid, and then we're gonna dispose of it.
I see. Thank you.
And just to give you an idea, these holes are about 3 inches in diameter.
Okay.
Everyone good? I'd like to make a motion to make a -3 determination.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. You're all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. Have a good evening.
Appreciate it, Joe.
Thank you, folks.
One more item, an emergency certification for Pawtucket Boulevard and Varnum Ave. An emergency certification was issued on 12/20/23. The applicant was performing water main work per the DOA issued on 12/9/21. The culvert where Clay Pit Brook passes under Pawtucket Boulevard failed and flooded the adjacent excavation site. You may have noticed an excavator out in the middle of the highway. Hello.
Hello, my name is Todd Prokop. I work for Woodard & Curran. We're an engineering firm at 40 Shattuck Road in Andover, and I'm here representing the city, who is the applicant in this case, just to discuss the emergency cert and the work that's going on out at Pawtucket Boulevard.
Please do tell us a little bit more about the work and what happened out there.
Yep. Yeah. So I think I was before the board a little over a year ago. Originally, we got a negative determination on an RDA out there for the work as utility work within the roadway. Our original intent for the crossing of the Clay Pit Brook was to use trenchless methods. So we would dig a sending pit on one side and a receiving pit on the other, and use a pneumatic hammer to push a steel sleeve under those existing culverts. The idea was we'd only be digging in the roadway and wouldn't have to disturb the stream. It's best for the stream, best for the water main, to be honest. And unfortunately, while those pits were set up and the installation of the sleeve was underway, we experienced an infiltration and then a sort of deluge of water into the sending pit, which is on the west side of the Clay Pit Brook. The river, it happened after a large rainstorm. The river was historically high. I don't know for sure that contributed, but it certainly didn't help. Basically the one edge, the contractor had a hole dug that was about 12 feet wide, 40 feet long, and 18 feet deep. They are running a dewatering system there continually to control groundwater, and they have had groundwater well controlled. That hole had been dry for several weeks. And unfortunately, what we think happened was an infiltration of surface water making its way into the pit. The groundwater is still controlled. We've got a monitoring well out there monitoring the groundwater level. It's low. But unfortunately, we had hundreds, maybe over 1,000 gallons a minute coming into the corner of a trench at one point. And so that eroded a bit of a canyon between, there's two culverts that the Clay Pit Brook goes under. One is corrugated metal pipe, and the other is an older, cast-in-place concrete box. we were, the corrugated metal pipe is the one closer to the sending pit. There seems to be some, or there seemed to be some link between the brook itself and the sending pit that sort of allowed this to happen. We didn't expose the culverts. I don't know for sure if it's an issue where the culvert has no bottom. That's kind of common with older those corrugated metal culverts. The bottoms can sometimes corrode out. It might also just be that the culvert was set in like a crushed stone layer or something, and that allowed it, the water to flow. But either way, we were getting what was clearly not groundwater. We were getting clearly, brook water essentially into the excavation. And so the contractor, when that happened, we had equipment down in the hole. The hole started filling up. They got as much equipment out as they could, but there is still some down at the bottom now that needs to be retrieved. They've also got the shoring systems in place. We need to get that sleeve. The sleeve has to go about 65 feet. It is in 30 feet, so we have 35 feet more to go. So what we're looking to do, or what we're currently trying to do under the emergency cert, is the contractor has built a pair of sort of coffer dams with sandbags and some road plates to stabilize the sandbags. Originally, we're going to attempt to use gravity system, large HDPE pipes through those culverts to bypass the flow. The contractor was not able to get those installed in, and so I spoke with Peter last week, and as noted in the emergency cert, that whatever we couldn't get via gravity, we're going to pump. The contractor is now working on mobilizing the pumps, hopefully by the end of this week, so that we can get that last 35 feet in and move forward. But yeah, so that's kind of where things stand. Certainly unfortunate circumstance. We're hoping to get that pipe in and get out of there as soon as we can. It's an important project for the city. The pipe, it's been a sort of a 13 or 14 year process to get a second sort of redundant pipe from the water treatment plant over to the population center of the city. So that, in the future, there's a lot of old infrastructure right now that carries water from the plant to the city. And there were a lot of single points of failure along that. And this is the last of a series of projects to eliminate them. And unfortunately, we've kind of hit a snag with the last couple hundred feet here. But we're hoping to get that pipe in and get out of there. The permanent disturbance that we're proposing is still the same. It's just we've got some more temporary disturbance than what we certainly told you when I was here for the RDA. So I guess I can take any questions or explain anything else if we have any.
The rest of the timeline, any guesses of when you think you'll be wrapped up over there? I know there's, an emergency starts lead to uncertainty, but.
Yeah, so the trenchless contractor thinks that they can get the rest of that pipe in a day, and the contractor only needs a day or two to install the water main. So like once we can feel good about pushing that pipe again, get these holes dewater, feel good about pushing that pipe again, it should happen really quick. The contractor, their pumps it's rental equipment, and they've got to fuse some HDPE on site, so they are working on that. They unfortunately have to clear just a little bit of land just north of the boulevard to set the pumps basically. We'll work to, there's no major tree cutting or anything that they're doing, and we'll certainly work to restore everything. But it's not vegetated wetland or anything, it's upland area. So we're hoping to have the pump system in place, if not by the end of this week, then hopefully, at the latest would be early next week. And then get the pipe in as quickly as possible and get backfilled and get out of there.
Anybody?
No, seems very necessary, so.
Thanks.
Let's see, I'll make a motion to ratify the emergency certification.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for your time and appreciate it.
Thanks very much for your time.
Yeah. Meeting minutes from November 8th.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 8th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anything from you?
Yes. So Lowell Forward, our comprehensive plan update, is in the draft plan form now. We're just doing a final look over. And we will be scheduling that for the city council, an upcoming city council meeting in January. Not sure the exact date yet. I can flag it for members, but there will be a public review, public comment period for just under 2 weeks. So I will distribute that widely, but I'd love to have your eyes on it as people who work for the city in your capacity as Conservation Commission members and people who are, you have your eyes on all corners of the city. It'd be really helpful to get your thoughts on the plan. So look out for that, and I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Fran. Anybody?
No.
Final words?
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
Thanks, everyone. Good night. Not bad. Hour and a half for
Quicker than I thought it was going to
for not having a meeting in.
Okay. Because I had those questions written down, and then he asked them, so. That's okay. You know what? It prevents me from talking, so I'm happy.